When I was around 8 years old, me and my family had rented out a campsite at the park off the highway, nearest to our house. We got a very nice site, just a block away from the modern bathrooms, but not close enough that the other campers would walk directly through our site to get there, or that we were close enough to smell anything coming from that direction. One night, after a long day of fishing with my older sister, we took our hike back from the woods to our campsite, as she went to our fillet station to clean and freeze the fish for the next day's lunch and dinner. My mom and her friends were hanging out by the bonfire. I approached my mom and asked if she could accompany me to the modern washroom for my nightly routine to brush my teeth before crawling into my cozy tented sleeping bag. She gave me a big smile and said, "Of course, sweetie," as she went to grab her own toiletry bag. "Time for nighty-night," one of her friends said, roughing up my hair a little bit. I felt my mom put her arm around me as she guided me towards the bathroom, letting me stand on her feet as we walked, knowing how tired I was. As we approached the bathroom, we saw a girl straight out of some sort of paranormal movie, with light blue overalls, a striped shirt, and her hair tied in pigtails. We heard her crying and approached her, but the closer we got, her cries turned to creepy, high-pitched giggles. My mom went to grab her arms and offer help, but as soon as my mom's index finger touched the girl's right arm, her entire body and existence turned to dust. I then felt a hand on my shoulder, only to look back and see a green, veiny hand with black nails. Before I could fully turn around, all I heard was a nasty, nasally sending me flying forward in shock into my mother's arms, as we both looked up to see a nasty, fairy tale style looking witch standing over us. "The boy's ears are mine," she said, as a broomstick appeared between her legs, and she flew off, leaving us both shivering in fear on that warm summer night. My mother has taken me to the best doctors in every state, but since that day, I've heard nothing in real life, and whenever I close my eyes, I hear a low-pitched, cackling version of that fake little girl's giggle. It was a long year of work, so when June 1st came around, I was over the moon and ready for my camping trip with the boys. We stopped off to get some drinks and camping supplies before heading out. And as we got to the till of the first store we shopped at, there was a very odd young man named Gary. He was looking about 16 years old or so, starting off his first summer job, and he asked us about where we were going, and even if he could come along with us. Looking around at my friends, all middle-aged men in their early to mid-30s, we were confused as to why this kid was trying to tag along on our trip. "Come on, man, it's the first day of summer. Why not do something with your friends in town after work?" I said. "I have lots of them," he replied, which was odd because I never said he didn't. After that, he just stood there, hyperventilating and staring into our souls. We grabbed our ice and drinks and got out of there as soon as possible, heading to the pizzeria across the lot for a slice before heading out of town. Somehow seeing that same kid, Gary, waiting at the till. Yes, the same 16-year-old from about 5 seconds ago. "Hello, friends. Slices on the house," he said, before casually punching in our exact regular orders as we stared at him like some sort of shapeshifter alien. We wolfed down our food, knowing how awkward it would be if we just left without eating. When we got up to leave, we looked back, noticing he'd been staring at us with an ugly grimace the whole time we were eating, not even breaking his gaze for a second, as we walked out to the parking lot and hopped into the truck. My friend Carter started the engine and peeled out of that lot, taking the first exit onto the highway. We finally made it out to the campsite, and as my friend Carter parked, we got out and started to unload, then noticing a red beeping tracking device under his car. "You don't think," I started saying, as Carter quickly smashed it, claiming it was just his crazy ex-girlfriend keeping tabs on his life, and all of us knowing her, we had no reason to think otherwise. We quickly finished up unpacking, with a couple team lifts on the big coolers, all trying to show off how we could pick them up individually, and all failing, until we finally settled in around the bonfire, as a wave of water came flying in over the trees, putting out our fire. We ran around the tree line and saw an empty bucket with the pizzeria's logo that could have only possibly held a fourth of the wave that had hit us. As we turned around, we saw Carter's truck go flying past us down the dirt road. We went back to the campsite, seeing what we thought was physically impossible. All our stuff was gone within the 10 seconds it took us to go back and forth. 4 full-size tents, 2 coolers full of drinks and meats, and even the bonfire pit, which was cemented into the ground. The only thing left was our scrap paper fire starters. Not even all of our firewood. Only the scrap paper, with a note reading, "Thanks, friends, Gary." It had been a boring and tiring school year, so when my family's yearly camping trip had finally come around, we packed up our minivan with snacks, fishing rods, tents, and everything you would need for a good old-fashioned family time. We arrived and started to unpack and prepare for a bonfire. However, we quickly realized we'd forgotten to pack one of the most important items for our trip: firewood. My dad was very upset at me and my brother, sending us to the campsite store and telling us if the bundle is more than $20, we were going to have to cut down some trees ourselves for the fire. As we took our walk from the site, we heard the terrifying howling of coyotes in the area. It being only 7 p.m. was a sign that we were going to be in for a show tonight, because they really only start howling like this around 10. We arrived at the store, finding some crazily overpriced firewood, $19.99 for 20 logs, which according to my dad's rules, we purchased. As we walked out with our overpriced lumber in hand, we surprisingly saw a lone coyote walking through the parking lot of the campsite store. Usually at midnight, the coyotes wouldn't come near the man-made lights of the parking lots. What was even more concerning was for its last couple steps on the pavement before disappearing into the woods, it hopped on its hind legs and took human steps. "I thought they feared us more than we feared them," my brother began to say, as he was swept up from under his feet by an uncountable pack of coyotes as they took off towards the woods, of course running on their hind legs, taking him and even my overpriced firewood. I ran back to the campsite and got my dad to come out into the woods with me, grabbing our flashlights and flares. As we made our way off the main trail, we found my brother's shirt ripped up, along with the mesh bag the firewood had came in. As we bent to pick up the aforementioned items, an unstoppable force hit us both on the back of the head, knocking us unconscious. We woke up on a bed of firewood as a coyote on its hind legs, with my brother's eyes, stared us down, saying, "Join us, fear us, or feed us."